All right, welcome back to the Speak Your Piece podcast. My name is Ian McNaughton, Big E. Pleased to be joined by SYP creator Ravisher. Rav, how
Yo,
goes it?
good man. It's been going good. Swell.
Swell. Wow.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear it, dude. I'm glad to hear that things are going well for you.
yeah. Hopefully it stays that way. Usually,
Wow.
usually, it's like a month thing. It's like, oh, I'm feeling good, and then it's like, then it's like that picture of like this, like the scribbled in face. Is how you see that. Yeah, usually
It,
it's
it
like that for 3 months, then you like kind of get your life back on track. But so far, it's been more than a month, so that's a good sign.
it's the dad walking into the room. Hey son, how's it
Yeah, and then
going?
it's like, how is it already made? It's a guy just writing shit on the on the ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I
It's the
can't
summer.
complain. Can't complain, right?
Summer's coming. It keeps
A normal
raining
summer
here.
too. Like hopefully, we can go outside again, which is nice.
We can touch grass now, is
We
what you're
can
saying,
finally touch grass without a mask on.
without a mask on, without being social distanced. We can finally do that.
Finally,
Um,
dude.
Rab and I are getting together here on the June 5th, a Sunday night after the Rangers Tampa game, but we're not here to talk about playoffs.
You're talking about the war.
we're, we're here to talk about Jordan Poole is what we're here to talk
He hit
about.
a half court shot at the end of the third, which is cool. I saw him do
Uh,
that.
do you know that Nick Stauskas scored more than Al Horford and Marcus Smart in today's game, by the way?
Yeah, and Luke Cornett did. He played in the finals. Luke Cornett, NBA final player.
I didn't realize this is sidebar from what we're actually going to talk about. Also, Otto Porter got 15 minutes in an NBA Finals game.
He's arguably one of their like better like probably one of their better bench players, which is funny.
I Otto Porter is like was like hyped the same amount as like Andrew Wiggins. It felt like for a
Yeah,
while there, and was reasonably worse. Was reasonably not as talented.
Wiggins was always good. I think it's just finding like the talent, like where he can actually thrive. And I don't think he's obviously never going to reach what he was going to be. But I mean, the role he's in now is pretty good, and he's an all-star, so you can't complain. He's 3 games away from winning a championship.
He's not playing in Minnesota. That's probably
That always helps people, I think.
that's got to count for something. Just wait till Anthony Edwards gets out of Minnesota.
I
But I was gonna. The other thing I wanted to mention, just while I'm thinking about it, did you see that article? Somebody wrote something about how like some scout with Carl Anthony Towns was like, yeah, no, actually, kind of a bit of a flake. Wouldn't want to build my team around him or whatever.
really, I never
Yeah,
saw that.
but this was like, and this was like years after the GM poll or whatever,
Yeah,
which is like, yeah, he's the top guy we build our team around is Carl Anthony Towns, and it's just like, listen, I know that Carl Anthony Towns has had a lot happen in his career, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think the dude's kind of talented. I think I
I
would
know.
put him on
I
my
think he's
team.
good. And I think in hindsight, it's a good idea to build a team around him. But I don't know. So far in the playoffs, it hasn't really worked out. During the regular season, I think it's done wonders.
But when
He's been really good.
when has Minnesota ever got to the playoffs? Like this was like the first
I
year they
mean,
got,
I mean, yeah, I
and their
guess.
and their and their championship was beating the Clippers anyways.
Yeah, Bev throwing his jersey into the crowd. That was
Yeah,
pretty good.
exactly,
That was
exactly.
their chip. That was their chip.
That was essentially the Timberwolves chip. All right, let's get to what we're actually supposed to talk about. Rav and I have come together here to do a 2013 redraft. I like when you come on because basically when you come on, we get to
Something
do.
stupid happens as well. Like there's always a dumb pick in there. I don't think I have a dumb pick today, unfortunately. I don't think I have something really stupid. I was close. Okay, I was very close. I'm like, this is gonna be too absurd. This is worse than Demko number 5. Like this is gonna be rough.
Well, I was gonna say something odd happens when we get together to do these sort of things, but you also get a little nostalgia. You get a little kind of older hockey, even though these are current day players. But you get to talk for
Yeah.
the draft, and we with the draft coming up, we like to do sort of this draft content. We get to talk about where teams fucked up and why Ottawa did a bad job at picking whatever players. And that's what we got going on here. that's what we got going on with this 2013 redraft featuring players making an impact today, except for Darnell Nurse.
Do I name some of the Canucks have way too many players in this draft, by the way. I'll talk about it, I guess, at the end. It's insane. I was like, oh, that's a lot. And then there'd be one more. And I'm like, oh my God, fucking Pullman. And then just get battling on. But yeah, I'm down to do this.
So let me go through some of the names who are in this draft class. Nate McKinnon, he went number 1 to Colorado. Alexander Barkov went number 2 to Florida. There's Seth Jones. There's Sean Monahan. Elias Lindholm. Goalies.
You keep going for a sec. I gotta just 1 minute. You keep going though.
UC Saros is a goalie in this class. Tristan Jarry is another goalie in this class. You also get some interesting guys like Max Domi, Pavel Buchnevich, Anthony Manta. Jonathan Drouin went 3rd in this draft, which is interesting to think about at the time.
Did you have him in your top 20? Is he on the brink? I hope he's on the brink for you.
He's on the brink. I couldn't quite put him. He's on the brink.
I'm like I always see, like, I think it happens every time where my last 3 picks, I'm like, throughout the whole podcast, I'm like, do I really? So I'm like switching through. He's on the brink for me too. I'll think about whether to decide to put him in. Obviously he's got a lot of things. We'll talk about that later on when we get to him.
I think with the 2013 class though, like, you can't really make a bad pick.
That's what I was thinking. There's a few bad ones. Obviously, you got like Morin, which is, I don't think that's really his fault. I know he has a lot of injury. He's like, I think he's already retired. If that's the case, I'm pretty sure. I cannot think of it off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a lot of cases where it's just like they didn't work out, or like there's also then like Hunter Shinkarik and Kirby Reichel where they just flat out weren't good enough.
Speaking of Ottawa picks, I'm pretty sure in 2013 I had stock in Curtis Lazar.
Oh, everyone did. I think it's the World Junior Championship. Like he really showed out like pretty well, and everyone was high on this guy. And then, he's a 4th line guy on the Bruins who like hits people and gets hit like worse back and then laughs. And that's it. Chris Big versus draft,
Well, it's like it's funny with like how, at least from like a Canadian scouting standpoint, where like guys' stock would rise with the World Juniors.
Nick Patan is also in this draft, actually. There's, if you want another World Junior one.
There's another one. And or the Memorial Cup. Like, I know Nate McKinnon definitely, like, he was going to go 1st overall probably without the Memorial Cup run, but he got the Mem Cup bump with Halifax.
Same with Drouin as well.
Yeah, with Drouin too. Like him, like the fact that him and Drouin were on the same junior team is just insane. Absurd. And Drouin probably got more of a bump because of that Mem Cup run, but I think McKinnon definitely got a bit more support and a bit more liking because of the fact he went all the way with the Mooseheads.
And there's another guy here. Yeah, Dylan Hetherington is another guy I was kind of high on back then. My 13-year-old self.
Morgan Klimchuk. I had a little bit of Morgan Klimchuk stock. Yeah. Man, I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that I really like. I mean,
I think it's just like anyone that showed out in
juniors,
junior championship was probably like the guy that like, oh, I have so much stock in this guy. Yeah.
Kirby Reichel. I'm sure Kirby Reichel had a good World Juniors game, and people liked him. Okay, let's go. I'll give you the first pick. You have the board. Who are you taking with the number 1 pick in the 2013 NHL redraft?
Okay, so originally, obviously, number 1 overall, Colorado selected Nathan McKinnon. That's worked out. He's top 3, top 5 player, whatever you think of the league. Amazing in the playoffs. And I'm gonna choose him if there's
any doubt.
Yeah. Won the Calder first year, all rookie team, and then ever since then he's been, amazing. Like there's not many better players than him. Obviously, he's never hit 100 points, so that's always the joke. It's like, oh, how is this guy the best player in the league who's never hit 100 points? But man, he's so dynamic offensively. One of the best centers. Runs the play. Like, dude, that goal against St. Louis is one of the best goals in Colorado playoff history, and then they choked it. But that's like an example of what he can do on a nightly basis right there. He could just like take a team from, they just blew a 3-0 lead, and then they bring him, and like he single-handedly brings them back. It's literally like a McDavid light, if there's such a thing, even though he's arguably that close to McDavid anyways.
I think it's a great pick, obviously, but like McDavid himself, he's in, I don't know, McDavid's in a tier of his own. Like Connor McDavid's in a tier of his own.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I call him a light version, which is nuts, because McKinnon is probably the third or fourth best player in the league. If you're like, depending right now, he's probably the second or third best.
I was just gonna say that he's in the same class of like, centerman as like Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
Or Draisaitl. Like they're all in that same sort of class. You can put those, like it's McDavid and then Matthews, McKinnon, Draisaitl, 2 through 4, however you want to put those guys, because they're all so talented. And it's unfortunate for those guys because they're all going to get compared to playing against McDavid because of the fact that McDavid is arguably the greatest player and they're all playing at the same time. But if Connor McDavid wasn't in this league, you can make a really good case that McKinnon's the best player in the league. Like you can make that case that McKinnon is just that special and that talented.
Yeah.
And everything he does with the puck is sensational.
It's just really the stat watchers that don't give him the light of day. I'd say I mean, the injury proneness is obviously a big issue, and I think the past 2 seasons he's shown like he's so good that like even with injuries he's still a top 5 player in the league, and like I don't think he's even like leading his team in scoring most years. I think it's usually Rantanen and McCarr now at this point. I think this year is Kadri. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Oh, I don't know. I think McKinnon came back. Let me see. But yeah, like he's not even leading their team in scoring, and this guy's already the best. Yeah, it was Rantanen this year, then Kadri or McKinnon and Kadri.
He's again a little over, but about a point per game in his career. Just a ridiculous player, an insane player, and he would be like the number 1 center on like every team except for like. Except Edmonton and maybe Toronto.
Yeah, literally. I in Toronto, even Toronto or Edmonton, he's on the wing probably. They probably put him right wing. They probably do Draisaitl, McDavid, McKinnon, and then there you go. If that ever was a thing, there you go. That's what I imagine that line.
Yeah, like I don't know how you're stopping that line.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the second. I'm going to do the second pick here. It's kind of obvious who it is.
It is Seth Jones. He's moving. It is Seth Jones. He is moving up 2 spots.
It is fucking Jay Gensel moving up. That's the real question. No. I'm going with Alexander Barkov. I mean, Florida's done a really good job of just adding quality, talented players through the draft, and I think Huberdeau was probably the start of that when Huberdeau got drafted. Barkov is
Huberdeau took like a much longer time than Barkov did. I think Barkov kind of stepped in more polished, which is usually the case for guys from overseas. Not on all cases, obviously. Like Kako was what that was meant to be, and like, and I always talk about him just because it's someone I still think has potential, and he almost scored a game winner the other day. So, but whatever, I digress.
But Barkov, I mean, he's done everything Florida's asked him to do. Quality center. He again, he's just one of those guys, along with Huberdeau and Ekblad, that have made Florida relevant, that have made Florida like not only good but helped them win the President's Trophy this year. Yeah. And Barkov's contract is up this year. He was making 5.9 this past season. And
that's probably the best value contract, if we're being honest. Even 10, I think, it's 8 by 10, I think, right? The next one
is the max you can get.
Yeah, that's I mean, I don't even think that's like that big of a deal. Like, I don't even think like that's a worthwhile deal.
Yeah, I think like if he was on the open market, he'd probably get like 11 or 12.
11. He's getting probably what Panarin got, and you could argue he probably deserves more than Panarin just because of what else he can do. He can play the center and is arguably the best defensive forward in the league. I know today, Bergeron won the Selke yet again. What is that, 5 and 11 years that he's been nominated?
They're gonna have to rename it the Bergeron Award.
Probably. I would assume it's either Bergeron or Datsuk. They name it after. Those is probably the two best two-way forwards ever. But yeah, he's so good defensively. The guy, he literally does remind me of like a Datsuk. It does a lot of the plays he does reminds me of Datsuk. What else? It's just the way he plays, and like I see a lot of him in Lundell as well now. I know Lundell doesn't get much. He doesn't get much playing time right now, but I mean, I would have argued like Lundell could be like a second or first line winger or not winger, but a center. But the fact is that they have such a good core right now, especially forward core. I don't know whether they keep Drew. I assume he's gone, but even still, with the way Marchment played, and I think they still have Hornquist for another year. That contract's kind of rough, but he's done a lot for him. But yeah, there's I think it's just him being able to mentor someone like Lundell as well, is also Finnish center, like literally so many similarities. It's perfect for the team.
So yeah, like whether Barkov gets the deal that he wants, whether he stays in Florida, I don't know, but nevertheless, the dude is the second best player in this draft class, and even like it's like he's not quite on that level of like Nate McKinnon, but if McKinnon wasn't in this draft class, Barkov would still be like a really good first overall pick.
Yeah, that's 100% true. That's kind of like the Ayton effect, where you got like Ayton. It's like, okay, I got DeAndre Ayton, even though Luka Doncic. Okay, maybe that's like imagine if like it was Trae Young first or something, and Luka was second. If it was like that, DeAndre Ayton's a good like that. The whole thing is kind of a good example. But yeah, it's like you're still getting DeAndre Ayton, and it's probably what you need. Obviously, their defensive core is so good now with Uyghur, who's also in this draft. And I can go on for that as well. Sherrod, I don't know whether to keep Sherrod as well, but
well, I was gonna say with Barkov, like he's a number one center on like half of the teams in the league.
Yeah,
like that's just how good Alex Barkov is. So he's my number 2 pick in this draft. Who do you got going 3?
I think I probably have I probably have a bunch of like different ones than you now looking at it. It's gonna be fairly different.
The first 2 were obvious. The first 2 picks with McKinnon and Barkov were obvious. Now we might get a little difference of opinion, but I'm curious to know what you think.
I have Tampa's 3. I think they took Drouin, right? Yeah. Drouin, I'll talk about him later when I get to him because I think I might put him in mine, but I took Jake Gensel.
Okay.
I did take Jake Gensel. I'm assuming you don't have him there.
I don't have him there, but I can see why you do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of just like Drouin, like it's what they wanted in Drouin, but actually working out is what I would describe it as. My thought was also going with Saros here, but they had just drafted Vasilevsky the year prior, so I don't think in hindsight that thought that way wouldn't make any sense. Sorry, there's like people just yelling outside my room, so I gotta get like.
No, that's fine. They're probably like critical of the Gensel.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came in rookie season and came in the playoffs, 21 points in 25 games, and ever since then he's been one of the best scorers in the league. And even like when Crosby hasn't been there, Malkin hasn't been there, he's been there. And it's not like I don't want to be critical of Brian Rust. He's a really good player, but that's someone who's been probably getting boosted by Crosby and Malkin. Whereas Jake Gensel, I think he can drive the offense on his own when they're not there. I think his points also don't do it justice. Like he has 84 and 76. I would argue he played to a higher standard than that. He's a really good winger. I'd compare him to I was about to say something absurd, but he reminds me a lot. He has a lot of Rantanen kind of thing, like where it's like it's much like it's I guess a smaller version of Rantanen, where a guy who can score 40, but he's a really good playmaker. He's a really underrated playmaker, and I mean he's just been so good, and he works so well with Crosby and Rust, and that's how it's been with Pittsburgh. I wonder how that's gonna go I know I don't know the whole Gino Letang, and I know Rust is locked up now, but I don't know how the team's going to be looking with after this season.
I mean, the other thing I like the Gensel pick also because of the fact that he's also really good in the playoffs.
Exactly, that's why.
Like he shows up in the postseason.
To score 13 goals in a rookie playoff year, like there's a lot of rookies who've won Stanley Cups, like Darren Helm, Cam Ward, Jordan Binnington. Those are the ones that came up to my head. Jake Gensel scoring 13 goals in your rookie playoff year. That's that's kind of like what Gaborik did. And he gets a lot of praise for that still. Like where at the trade deadline goes to LA, he scores that many goals, and like that's a big deal. And then Jake Gensel did that in his rookie season and won and was on the way to a cup. Like I don't know what else to say. That's why I always thought it was that's a good pick for number 3.
Well, and
imagine him on Tampa as well.
Oh, totally. And like at the time too, I remember with Jake Gensel, like it was just like that was the start of like I think like the Mark Donk. Like how the fuck do Pittsburgh get these guys? Like where do the Penguins get?
It's always
guys
something
from?
that works. Like Kunitz, like he only had he won the cup with the Ducks, but he wasn't a critical guy. But then he comes to Pittsburgh, and then he's I mean obviously the biggest moment for him is 2016 or is it 2016 the Senators goal? 2016 or 17.
2016, I think that is.
Yeah, the double OT winner against Ottawa. Like he scored so many big goals for him, and he like all these guys that Pittsburgh just pulls out of nowhere, and they always just end up working. And it's never like I mean, guess obviously Gensel's like probably the best star they've pulled besides like the main 3 and main 4 if you include Fleury. But again, they're yelling outside.
Yeah, well, maybe they're not, big on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they don't like the Gensel pick. They wanted Saros.
They wanted Saros, but no, I think that's actually like a really good pick because, I mean, like you say, people will probably say it's the Crosby and Gino effect, but
I think if you watch, like I didn't watch, I'm not a big avid watcher of the Penguins, but like if you watch the games, you can tell that Gensel is, and like I think it showed in this playoffs, Gensel was driving the play mainly alone. There's obviously Crosby moments, right? And like there's going to always be Crosby moments, but I think Jake was playing really well, like on his own. Like I think he was just as good as Crosby Crosby was in most instances.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with that. I think that's probably a fair pick. And again, like you say, imagine him on Tampa. Like imagine him being with the Bolts right now in their playoff run. It's like
they sign him to like some insane Brandon Hagel deal, like $1 million, 8 years or something. Imagine they signed him to that back then.
Yeah, exactly. and just basically like he's a lifer.
He's a lifer in Tampa.
He's a lifer in Tampa, which I'm sure Penguins fans listening to this are just like, God, no, please, no, shut up, no. But
number 4, the Preds pick.
Number 4, the Preds pick.
It was Jones, right?
It was Seth Jones at the time, which it's kind of funny now. The Seth Jones for Ryan Johansson.
Yeah, it's. I don't even know what to think of that. Like at this point, like what do I even? I mean, obviously, I still don't even know what to think of that trade. It just is Ryan Johansson the Seth Jones of centerman. Like if we're gonna go there. Is that the next narrative I write? That's my first ever article. That's
when you do your like JFresh like fucking elite prospects article type your analytic. No, but I mean by the way, speaking of Nashville moves, I was looking at Colorado and I'm trying to remember what player it was. I think it was because I was looking at the Byram draft pick because that was a part of the Kyle Turris.
Yeah,
the Kyle
Byram's so good, bro. Like he is so good. I think it's just the fact that they have Makar, Taves. That's the first 2, which is insane, and then the Taves trade also. If I want to get into that.
Oh yeah, no, like Colorado just they do some spectacular trades, but like that trade too, the Duchesne, Kyle Turris, fucking Colorado just taking on Andrew Hammond, who also got time in 2022 in the NHL.
Multiple games.
Multiple games. And they got Bowen Byram out of doing that.
And Sam Girard, I'm pretty sure.
I think that was the other guy, was the
It was Sam Girard and Byram. So they got like their number 2 and number 3 D-men, who is, or probably like number 1 and number 2 D-men on many teams, but like for like the left side.
Point is, the Kyle Turris, Matt Duchene, that trade doesn't look good for Ottawa. That trade does not hold up for the Senators. So
what do you have for number 4?
Number 4, Nashville. You know what? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll go with Seth Jones.
Oh, you gotta go with Seth Jones?
I'll do Seth Jones.
Okay.
Can
I tell you right now where I had him?
Yeah, where you have him?
I had him 11th.
All right, fine then. You know what? But no, you know.
No,
yeah,
go with those. Stick with them.
No.
Stay true to your guns.
All right, fine. I'll do Seth Jones. Here's the thing.
There's a reason why I kind of did it.
Here's the thing with Seth Jones. Saros is probably the best pick here.
That's who I had.
Saros is probably the guy. The reason I'm going with Seth Jones is because I just hate, like, I'm trying to look past the contract. I'm trying to look at the actual player, and I think the actual player is good. The problem with the actual player is that there's already now, in the span of like 2 years, like since they were in the bubble, there's already a bunch of guys who already do what he does better.
Yeah.
And now he's way overpaid and not as good as like Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, probably not as good as Zach Werenski.
I'd argue Zach Werenski is probably a better overall defenseman, someone I'd rather have.
Probably. But with Seth Jones, and I shouldn't even take him because of the fact that he didn't even want to play for Everett and Junior. But I do think with Seth Jones, I think if you redo, like, I don't want to be that guy, but like if you redo Seth Jones's career, like I think if you don't have him playing for Torts, if you don't sign him to a stupid contract, trade assets, and then, you know, sign him to a stupid contract like the Blackhawks did, I think he's a much more valuable player.
Yeah.
But all that ruins the reputation of Seth Jones. I'll take him 4th.
Even if you're getting 2018 Seth Jones, he's going 4th overall. I don't know whether you're getting. That's the reason I have Monahan in my, but I don't have him as high as I probably want him 3 years ago. It's the same thing with Seth Jones here. It's a guy who's, I think he's All-Star first team, or I don't know how they do it again, but he's on the All-Star team multiple times. He's 4th in Norris voting that year as well in 2018. And I think, I know this year he probably had his best year since that year. I would probably say that's probably a good shout. If not, maybe 2019. But you know what you're getting with him. You're getting a big body who obviously, like, the big thing where it's like, oh, you can take the tough minutes, all that bullshit. But it's a guy who can quarterback your power play. It's a guy who could, he's a guy you want on your right D. I don't know if you want him as your number 1 defenseman, but obviously he plays the number 1 defensive role, and he's been successful in it. It's just whether he's never really been on a team that's made the playoffs, and I don't know how he would work in, like, I know he made the second round with Columbus a few years ago with after the Tampa incident, that thing.
Yeah.
But, we haven't really seen how the game is gonna translate over. I think he only has around like 30 something games. Yeah, he's 37 games. And I forgot about the bubble, but he wasn't really necessarily impactful in that.
No, he played 60 minutes. Literally, he played 60 minutes one game.
I mean, that's why his time on ice is 32 minutes, actually. That 60 minutes probably jacked up his contract price a lot.
Probably, and that's like, with Seth Jones, he is a good defenseman. Like you say, he's probably not. You probably don't want him as your top defenseman. And then in the last 2 years, he's easily been surpassed by, like, I don't know if, like, maybe in the last 4 years, like Yossi's a better defenseman, Makar's a better defenseman, Quinn Hughes is a better defenseman. Like I could name so many other guys that I would rather have.
I know, like Fox only came
Fox, yeah,
after 2019, and he's already better than him.
He's better than him. But yeah, Seth Jones, fuck it. I said it. I'll stick with it. I kind of regret it, but whatever.
No, I recognize like why you'd want to go. There's no reason. There's no bad. It's not a bad thing to go with them, right? I don't think it's a bad.
I think it is. Now I regret it. And Nashville. You know what? The thing with Nashville too is that Nashville, kudos to them. They always just find a way to get good defensemen.
Yeah, they have always had Weber. Then I have my Subban jersey in there, obviously, and he was there. He was so good in Nashville too. Like people give him shit for obviously towards the end, but he's a big reason why they made it to the finals.
All right, you got the 5th pick with the Carolina Hurricanes. Originally took Elias Lindholm.
So 5th overall, yeah, Elias Lindholm's there. I like the pick for him. Obviously, that he's in. I don't think he did play there for a few years. Obviously, I remember when they came back.
Mm-hmm.
He came back to Carolina. I think it was an overtime game. Calgary won, and he started doing the clap to piss off all the Carolina fans. So obviously, he wasn't really a fan of being there, but we saw what Elias Lindholm could do this year.
Well, he was a part of the Dougie Hamilton, Adam Fox trade.
That whole fiasco.
Where this Dougie Hamilton. Where it's just like, this dude's weird.
Yeah, Dougie Hamilton. Seth Jones is just a punching bag for Dougie Hamilton at this point. I digress. I originally, in my draft that I had listed, I had Lindholm, and I stuck with that pick. I'm gonna go with Saros now, just because I'd rather have Saros than Lindholm.
That's a good pick.
Saros is one of the best goalies in the league. I don't need to even get to that. 6th in goals saved above expected this year, 20.7. He essentially carried Nashville to the playoffs this year, and we saw what they did without him in the playoffs. And that's also a thing that happens when you get overworked. I'm surprised. I'm happy that didn't happen, but I'm surprised it wasn't as bad with Demko this year. I know I'm turning it to like, well, how does this affect the Canucks? Like, just like the Leafs fan, where it's like, how does this affect the Leafs?
You're like the Steve Dangle of SYP, where
it's like how does it affect the Leafs?
How does it affect my team?
Yeah, but
I was just looking at the Lindholm contract. We'll talk about it. I'll talk about it later on. But with Saros, Saros is like any goalie, right? Where it's just like you have to have patience. Like Igor Shesterkin is like another guy here who like it's been a while for like Igor to be this guy.
And Vasilevsky is only 1 year older than Shesterkin. Look how long Vasi's been here. It just depends. Like not every goalie is going to take the same route. That's how goalies are, and that's what I think will also happen with Yaroslav Askarov. I think the same thing will happen with him in Nashville too, especially with UC there. I don't know if he even gets necessary playing time. I would hope he comes over in the next 3 years, hopefully. But then, I guess it also depends on where. I don't know if UC's contract. I don't know really about how that's going. But
yeah, I think UC is like a contract similar to Thatcher. Like I think they still have.
They still have long term. Yeah, Sars is smaller. Sars is also like a smaller build. He's only around 6 feet tall, I think, but like for a goalie, like we obviously see like Markstrom and like the Bishop if you want to go there, but like he's a much smaller frame. But what he could do is amazing. Like I don't think Nashville even necessarily comes close to making the playoffs without him in net this year, and that just shows how good he is. And I'd argue he's a top 5 goalie in the league. I'd go for that argument. I don't know if I die on that hill, but he plays so well.
I would listen to that argument about Saros being in the top 5. And I mean, he's Nashville's MVP. He would be a really good pick at the time for Carolina, 5th overall, because Carolina, I think, is still going through like the Cam Ward thing, where it's like, well, Cam Ward's valuable to us, but we can't, he's more valuable to us than anybody else, so we can't really get rid of him because we don't know what else to do. And I mean, Saros, like, you have to be really patient. I know, like, you can't rush a goalie. You have to give him the time and the proper development. But like, if Carolina has Saros, they're probably going to the next round.
Oh yeah,
they're probably beating the Rangers.
100%. And that's no blame to Ronta as well. He played great, and same with Kachetkov. He got thrown to the wolves, dude. Like if there was ever like, and I think that's probably an understatement. He got probably thrown in the Mariana's Trench, dude. I couldn't imagine being like however young he is, 22, 23, and you're just one of your like it's probably your 7th or 8th NHL game, and you're getting thrown in a game 6 and a game 7.
Yeah, I have no
I
no
mean,
counter to
also,
that.
I'd argue like if Freddie was there, maybe it's different too. But that's for a
Sure,
different day.
sure, but Saros is just that good. He has we now, I think after this season, we now could say he is an elite goalie.
Yeah, I don't know if that was really. I mean, if no one believed after last year, I think this year kind of did it pretty well. His 918, like last year to 927, 6th in Vezina voting. Like this year, he only had a 918. Sorry, that's so bad. But like, I think that's the same thing with Demko, where it's like you don't really see it with the save percentage. You got to like look deeper and look at like watch the games.
Only 918.
Yeah.
And if Saros is healthy, they probably like the Predators this year probably give Colorado a
yeah, that's
a
with
better fight.
like Connor Ingram giving him a game too. That's like with like they got a game out of Connor, and like they still couldn't really do much with it. I mean, that's also just kind of shows Nashville's depth really, but they kind of have a good top 4 players, and then it's kind of fallen off right after that.
It's okay. So you got Saros 5th. I think now 6th. Yeah. This pick was originally Calgary.
Monahan, right?
Originally Monahan. I think now it's between Lindholm and Monahan. I think with the 6th pick, I think is where I go here.
Yeah. I obviously I think I told it at the start, but I have like I have like Monahan and like Domi and those guys who were good but haven't been good recently, like a bit lower. So that's why
I could also go.
I'm not going to influence your decisions.
I could go the Bo Horvat way.
Don't do that. Do not do that.
I could go the Anthony Manta way.
Spencer Martin's still on the board. Ryan Hartman, 35
Spencer
goals.
Martin is still on. Nikita Zadorov is still available if I want to take him. I'll take Lindholm.
Yeah. Selke nominee this year. Obviously didn't win, but
he didn't win. But like he's a I don't know if this is just a 1-year blip either with the Flames, but like he was a part of the top line in hockey this year.
Yeah, 40 goals this year as well. Like I mean, I don't know what to say. Yeah, like he's always been very underrated. I don't think he really ever got the respect he deserved. And he's had seasons like this before. He had 78 points in 2019. Like it's not like it's something new for him either.
And I'm gonna go back to the trade. He was traded to Calgary along with Noah Hannafin for Dougie Hamilton, Michael Ferland, and Adam Fox. Which
I mean, on paper, you got to remember, like on paper, it looks different than it actually was. It was because Fox wasn't going to play, right? So
Fox wasn't going to play for either one of those teams. Fox was only going to play for the Rangers.
Yeah.
Fox was literally only like, I'm playing for the New York Rangers, or I'm not playing for anybody. And then it's like, okay, well, bye.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like this is.
He's also on a. By the way, sorry to cut you off. He's on an amazing contract. It is absurd how much he's getting. 4.8 for this year and like this upcoming year and the year after. It's insane.
And maybe the 3rd best defender in hockey right now.
Yeah, I mean that's how well. Yeah, at least as a forward, sure.
And I mean, like, so Lindholm. At least what like slightly concerns me about him is that he has never scored 30 goals before in a season before this year, and then he scored 42.
Yeah.
But I mean, like he's had 78 points in 18-19. He had 54 points in 2019-20 with the lockout shortened, or not the lockout, the COVID shortened season. Yeah. He had 47 points last season in the COVID shortened season.
That was in a rough year for Calgary, and like a kind of a weird play.
They weren't that great last year either.
Yeah.
But hey, it shows that this guy is still pretty good. He's very versatile. You can put him pretty much anywhere in the lineup and he'll do well. Like,
yeah, I think you probably want him as in your top 6 at this point, just because you see how well he does produce. You probably want him there.
I
But
think
he can't
now,
play another like if he's on a depth heavy team, he can play any line. He can be a shutdown guy now.
well, like if he's on Carolina, he's probably getting a top 6 role in Carolina. He's
Yeah.
probably there on the second line in Carolina.
Yeah, and he probably put Trocheck on the third. Stahl moves down. You probably have Domi scratched at that point or Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, you
$6
got
million scratch.
yeah, you got $6 million, upstairs with Kotkaniemi. I mean, Lindholm, for in my opinion, he's not a flashy dude per se, but he's just really effective. Like
Yeah,
he's just really good and is very creative. He makes plays. He makes his teammates better, and it's kind of like a Kachuk thing too. But I think both of those guys are also smart enough to just give the puck to Gaudreau.
yeah.
Like,
It's I'm hoping he stays because I actually did enjoy watching them in the regular season. It was really they're really good together. And I'm just as a I don't like Calgary. They're probably the team I hate the most. But for their own sake, I hope he stays. I don't know if he does. He goes to New Jersey. Obviously, everyone thinking that. That would suck, dude. If they got
that would, but that would be such a New Jersey move of them just like driving the Brinks truck up to Gaudreau and like, listen, we'll pay you everything to be on our team, and it's just like, okay, sure.
New Jersey Devils. I
or
just want to see their cap space.
or Philadelphia, like,
25 mil, and their biggest contract is Brat probably in Zaka. So and maybe Severson, that's next year. So like, you have the money for it, and Subban's off the books.
Well, I was gonna say with Philly too, where Philly's like, screw trying to fix any actual problems we might have with our team. Let's just go sign like an expensive forward that scores a lot, and it'll
It's arguably kind of what the Rangers did, but it kind of did work. But it's not for those reasons.
But like I was gonna say also, like, the Rangers, I just trust more. I think as a team, I like.
They've always had successful teams, not teams that have won the cup, but they've been successful. And like
the Rangers know what they're doing. The Devils and the Flyers don't know what they're doing, and the Rangers know what they're doing. That's why it's worked out for the Rangers, and that's why the Devils and Flyers are screwing around doing it.
Hell.
Yeah, exactly.
People had the Flyers winning the division, dude. I can't believe
it. I have Lindholm 6 overall.
Yeah, same
to the
here.
Flames in the redraft. 7. This pick would have been the Edmonton Oilers.
Darnell Nurse went there. No impact in the playoffs. As we said earlier, 0 impact. He's scoring in his own net. He's going to get 9.5 for 8 years after this year. I don't have him there. I do think Darnell Nurse is good when he's on top of his game. If he's playing like he is right now, that's horrible. I think when Darnell Nurse is at his best, he can do what Seth Jones is doing at right now, where he's playing good, but he will never live up to the contract. Like that's.
I just like, I don't understand. I don't why with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl taking up just a quarter, just 25% of your salary cap.
Yeah, 2 of the best players, like generational talents.
2 of the greatest players of my lifetime. And you're getting you are getting a fucking steal from both of them, and you use that money on Darnell Nurse at 9.5, and God bless him. I'm sure he's a nice enough dude, but there is no way I would pay Darnell Nurse 9.5 million. I wouldn't do the Seth Jones contract. I wouldn't pay Darnell Nurse 9.5. I fucking wouldn't do any of those deals.
I do have a defenseman here.
Okay, who is it?
It's Weegar. It's Mackenzie Weegar.
That's probably a better pick than my Seth.
Yeah, I went with him just because obviously I think you're getting a bit of both with Weegar. He's really stepped up offensively, and I think he's looked so great without, obviously Ekblad the past few years has been a bit difficult for him to even get in the lineup, but he's been great in his absence, and he's a guy pretty sure he can play both sides whenever you really need him to. I know they've done Weegar Ekblad a few times, but he had 44 points like this season and 36 before, and that's a guy who's a defensive defenseman who's there to be your shutdown guy, and he's been providing offense at like an above average level.
Here's the thing. I love this pick because it means Uyghur goes to Edmonton.
That's why I did it. I think that's kind of why I'm like, Uyghur's an upgrade. It's actually a defenseman.
But like the Edmonton media wouldn't appreciate Uyghur. Like the Mark Spectors of the world would just be like, this guy doesn't do shit.
That clip of like him allowing like Ross Colton score with a half a second left that happened in Edmonton would be on repeat for years, and then that would be the narrative. Meanwhile, Darnell Nurse is shooting it like top cheese on Mike Smith, and nothing's happening. And they're like,
it's like you know the hockey nerds don't understand how this works. It's like no, we don't understand. We clearly Mackenzie Weegar. We clearly don't understand how this works. As
he's
like,
he was this is a 7th overall pick. He's moving up 199 spots after because he was taken in the 7th round, 206th overall. I think he also played alongside. Don't get me flustered here, but I'm pretty sure he did play alongside McKinnon and Drouin.
He was on the Halifax team.
Yeah. The most comparable player on this website is Dan Boyle, and I see a lot of that in him. Like it's a guy who is pretty good defensively, but then obviously Dan Boyle is known more offensively, but he's a guy who can score the same amount of points as Dan Boyle kind of did, versus around that 40 to 50 point range. And it's a guy who's steady defensively, where I think Weegar's probably another level above Dan Boyle. I don't really remember much from him back because I was a kid, and all I remember is him throwing it in his own net against the Bakov that one time.
I remember Dan Boyle just being a solid defenseman.
Yeah, I remember the Olympics, and he was good.
Yeah, he was just a solid, reliable guy, and like
one of the most forgotten guys because he was like a star. Like he's a star defenseman. We don't really talk about him anymore.
I don't know if he was a star. I just thought he was like an above average to good defenseman that you could just trust, and he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Outside of throwing the puck in his own net, he wouldn't fuck up much defensively.
Yeah. But I think again, like I've said this every time we do this. It's like I do it a lot. A lot of the reason my picks are done the way they are is just like I'm thinking about what that team needs, and you're taking. This is the point where Edmonton's in the shitter, and like you need a defenseman. And if you knew Weegar was going to be this good, you take Weegar. And that's who I take. They took Nurse, which ended up obviously that's their number one guy now. Whether you believe that's good, whatever. But I think the pick with Nurse was a good idea, and I think it could have worked out even now. And I still think if you just gave him a lesser contract, it didn't need to be 9.5 times 8, did it?
No, it's like in the
9.5 times 8. By the way, sorry, right? Like it has to be.
It's like in the NBA when you just give the max deal without thinking. You just get
Chandler Parsons.
Yeah, you just give it's the same thing with Seth Jones. They just gave him the max contract without discussing it, and it's just okay, you didn't need to do that, but sure.
It's 9.25. I won't be fully disrespectful to him. It's 9.25.
Yeah, because fucking that $250,000 is really gonna influence the fucking Oilers when they choose to re-sign Ryan McLeod to 5.75 over 3 years after this season.
He has been really good for him.
He has been good. I like Ryan McLeod, but knowing Ken Holland, it's like we're gonna He's
brought your team so much success, and you're doubting this man. Come on. He's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. No move clause.
Can we take somebody out of the Hall of Fame? I think he got into the Hall of Fame too early. I think that's the same thing with Bettman. Bettman got into the Hall of Fame before the Blackhawks stuff.
Up until 2027, Nurse can't be moved, and then there's a modified trade clause where you can submit a 10-team list. So have fun, Oilers. We'll move to number 8. Number 8 is the Sabres pick. They pick Rasmus Ristolainen. I don't have him in my top.
I feel like I always get the Sabres pick when we do these things. I feel like I'm always picking.
I just remember Middlestat. By the way, I want to bring this up. The highest plus minus in the top 5 from this draft class is Kopp, Pesce, Weegar, Barkov, McKinnon. From lowest to highest, McKinnon with 83, and then Kopp and Nichushkin with a nice 69. The lowest top 3 is Miles Wood, or Seth Jones, Miles Wood, -62, -64. Bo and Drouin, What do you
But
say?
as we know, plus and minus is not indicative of a true player. For hockey.
I okay, but this I think has to be said. This is have you seen have you seen it? I hope you have.
Which
I
one?
don't know if you've seen like what I'm gonna say. Bo Horvat, Drouin are the top 3 and 2 worst plus minus in this year. It's minus 68 for both of them. Bo Horvat started off in a tough position, and I think it's worked out for him a bit more now. And same with Drouin recently, especially. Obviously, they made the finals last year. He wasn't part of it, but yeah, Drouin's been in tough situations. Rasmus Ristolainen, number 1 overall. Drouin's minus 68. Number 1 worst plus minus is at a minus 172. It's over 100 plus minus points less, which is absurd. I know he's a defenseman, but holy hell, man. That's
But here's the thing. Here's the thing I love about Rasmus Ristolainen is the fact that Philly traded a first round pick for this guy and doubled down on it by giving him an extension this year.
for $5 million a year, right? Something like that.
It's less than what he was making before, but it doesn't say much because he was making way too much.
Because that was a contract you were meant to like work your way up to, and then it's like, oh shit, you never worked your way up. Okay, well, here's close. Here's essentially the same contract yet again. Like, it's just a year, it's 2 years less, right? There's 1 year less and like $500,000 less or $250,000 less. It's like 5.1, and then what is that? He had 5.4 before.
Here's the thing. You fucked up. You fucked up when you're re-signing the guy you traded for, and you're paying less than you originally had to take on to acquire.
I mean, I guess if you're trading for him, I don't think that's always the case. I think that could be the case with Kotkaniemi. I don't think it's the case with Ryan Nugent Hopkins, but like I think that contract you could argue, I don't think that one's bad. It's like it's a bit less. I think it's 5.125 for 7 or something, but that's not too bad.
It's not too bad, but at the same time, they didn't have like they drafted him first overall, and I mean, I think
he's going to be I don't know if he's going to be the future captain. But that's like you're insinuating David's leaving at that point. I don't know why you'd keep him for that long, but
yeah,
Chuck Fletcher moment with that contract.
Big Chuck Fletcher moment. Number 8. I don't know who you have here.
See what I have.
I think
mine's a weird one. It's a weird one, but you go. Bo. No, I don't get no influence.
I'm not. I listen. I thought about Bo.
There's better players. There's better.
I'll go with Monahan.
Monahan, you go with Monahan. Okay.
I'm gonna go with Monahan because I don't know with Monahan. Like, I think he's good.
His teammates love him too, right? Like Johnny Gaudreau has talked nothing but great about him, and obviously you saw like when he scored the Game 7 winner, Monahan came down and gave him a big hug, which like all his teammates always talk really well about him. I think it's just an unfortunate situation of the hip surgeries and like all the just everything that's happened, and especially this year where he's probably out for this year, and I don't know about next year too. His contract's up end of next year. He's obviously going to make much less. You don't know, but when you're getting Sean Monahan, the player that we saw in 2018 or 2018, 2019, it's a night and day with right now.
Like, I don't like the problem too is that Buffalo is just purgatory for players.
Yeah.
Especially during this time. Like, Buffalo just needs talent, and they just don't have it. Monahan is probably he's a top 6 player for Buffalo now, and I mean, the guy's a fine player. I think that's kind of what we're getting into at this point. Like, unless like there's guys like you really like, but I think fine is about like good to fine is about where we're at.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys I really love. Monahan, funny enough, he has the 4th most point shares from this class.
Yeah, no, he's really good. Like that's why I still have him on my list, even with the past 2 years being, awful. He's not even like he's a really disciplined guy. Only 150 penalty minutes over, near 10-year career. It's everything you want in a player. It's everything he's captain material, I'd argue. Like if he was on the same trajectory as he was, in 2018, where he only had 64 and 88 or 64 and 74, just below point per game, I think he's probably the captain of this team right now. He's it's rough what's happened. I think I'm hoping, maybe a different place for him works. I don't know where that would be. I think we'll have to see next year and see if he's even returns to like a good, like a third, like if he's even a serviceable player anymore, which is unfortunate to say, right? Like it's someone who's so talented and he's done so well in his career. I don't know. I don't know if Calgary's a place for him anymore. I think they're also kind of given up on him.
He needs a Sam Bennett type move.
Yeah, but the thing is, like the Sam Bennett thing, where it's like he's never showed the potential with them. Well, he has in the playoffs, but then he goes somewhere else where like it's not for the same reasons. Where it's like for Sam Bennett, where it's like, oh, he's not getting the playing time, and then he goes to Florida, gets playing time, he's good, and then Sean Monahan, he's getting the playing time, but he's not good anymore. Like I don't know if it's gonna magically come back somewhere else. You might get like a Oliver Ekman-Larsson thing where it's like, or like a Seth Jones where it's like, he's gotten better, but he'll never be what he was.
No, probably not. Not with the peak of Monahan.
I would hope he becomes like a serviceable player, but I think that's a good pick just because what he has done over his career has been great. So I think that's a good pick.
I think he deserves to be in the top 10 of this redraft.
I didn't just because of the past 2 years. I'm like,
okay,
but I still have my top 15. I'm not going to disrespect how good
top 15, sure, yes.
And I think Calgary fans love him too. Most Calgary jerseys you see were like Sean Monahan or Gaudreau jerseys.
It's kind of like the Ryan Kessler effect, where like for a bunch of years it just seemed like every Canucks fan was wearing like a Kessler jersey.
Yeah,
and it's like I think there are 3 or 4 other guys that you would maybe want a jersey of instead.
I think
of Kess.
When I went with Ian Davidson, I think he also had a Kessler jersey on. I'm like, why does everyone has a Kessler jersey? I'm happy he kind of like made up with Canucks fans because he cheered him on at the retirement ceremony for the Sedins. I'm pretty sure it was that or somewhere, but I guess I don't know. It wasn't really his fault. I don't think when he left. I mean, kind of was because he's being an asshole. He has to leave, but like honestly, the way the team was going, I didn't blame
him. We need we need a Kess's House equivalent for Sean.
No, next pick. I don't even want to hear Kess's House in my ears ever again.
9th overall. Oh wow!
So 9th overall is me. I'm a Canucks fan, and the Canucks are here. We traded away Corey Schneider for this pick, and
how the turntables.
Okay,
it's almost 10 years, but like, do you like that move still?
Oh yeah, I always talk about I always tell my family about it because they never really understand like how trades work. So always like they know the players. Then I told them, hey, we traded Corey Schneider away for the draft pick to get Bo Horvat, and they think that's so cool, and they think it worked out because they don't see Corey Schneider anymore. Not to I don't know. I'm not going to disrespect Corey Schneider. He had so many good years in New Jersey. It was just unfortunate it was in New Jersey. I think it's kind of sad the way the teams. I think the Islanders and it's sad the way he's kind of gone out.
Yeah.
I think I saw a video of Mike McKenna. I think I forgot who it was, but there's an AHL goalie. He took a picture with Schneider. Oh, it was Joey Decord. It was Joey Decord, and he was like, it was at the end of their playoff series in the AHL, and he was like shaking. He's shaking Schneider's hand. It's a guy who's talked about he's literally the reason I wear 35. So Schneider's had a great impact on so many goalies, and you see it with an NHL goalie like Joey Decord. Corey Schneider had a great career. Unfortunate circumstances the way it's looking to end right now. Bo's been great though. I can't fucking lie. Bo's been so good.
I was gonna say I also liked this trade at the time because I mean not that things are always so sunshine and rainbows and everything's all happy in Vancouver, but there was so much going on at this time. I remember things with Lou, with Lou's contract with the problem.
Kessler.
The team was just kind of in not a mess, but
no, we were in a mess. We were in a pretty big mess. This is the point where fans kind of started falling off.
Yeah, and so then it's it was a bit of a shrewd move to just be like, yeah, we're trading our way, arguably one of our best assets, for this draft pick, for a top 10 pick in the draft. And everybody's kind of like, oh shit, okay, sure, let's do this. This is
Yeah,
fun. This is exciting. This is different, and it's worked out.
it's worked out,
Um,
and that's our captain right there. I'm not gonna go with him though. There you go. The only reason I'm not going with him is because I believe the guy who's here is just much better. I'm not gonna like. I think he's not a center, right? So that's the guy I'm gonna take. So it's obviously that's kind of the main thing because Canucks need it. Do I just stick to my guns and keep Bo here? I might just keep Bo here. Let me think. Number 10.
nobody has more bumper goal or whatever slot goals
Bumper power play goals than Bo.
bumper power play goals per 60 than Bo Horvat.
Yeah, you're right.
You can't ignore that. Darnell Nurse is still on the board here.
There's three guys here, right? And then it's between Shea Theodore, Bo, and Pavel Buchnevich, and I want to go with Buchnevich, but I really think that
Buchnevich, here's the thing. Buchnevich is probably the I mean,
I would say Buchnevich is the best out of the three, if I'm being honest, and it's not even really close. It's
probably, but like at the same time, Buchnevich would have got moved out of Vancouver so long ago.
That's
like,
what. So you know what? I would stick with number 9 being Bo Horvat just because I wouldn't want it any other way. Shea Theodore would have got moved because he took too long as defenseman, and then Buchnevich wouldn't even made it on the team because he's not he wasn't happy. Like he wasn't a happy Russian coming in. Okay, like it didn't work out with Shramkin. It didn't work out with Goldobin, and now like Podkolzin comes in with this happy mood and he's working out. So I don't know.
You need to find a nickname because like with Podkolzin you have Podgolzin, so you need to find like a cool, clever like Buchnevich. You need to find some sort of like clever nickname. But listen, I get why you would have gone with Buchnevich. It's just like he would have got moved in 2016 for like I don't know he probably would have got moved in 2015 when they were like on the like when they were making the playoffs, and it's like, who do we add to lose in the first round of Calgary?
Podkolzin also has a similar point range and like time on ice as Bo did, so I'm hoping that trajectory also blossom similar to to Bo. I'm hoping. I will stick with Bo Horvat. I don't think we need to go any further on that though, just because I think we kind of went over everything. Two-way guy. I think he's kind of like Dubois though, where like it's just a big body, so that's kind of the main reason he's good defensively. He can win the board battles, and he's really good at faceoffs. Obviously, he had the 17 out of 17 game against Arizona this year, where he won all faceoffs, which is absurd. That's so insane. He's not
leader,
the best
real leader, real locker room guy.
He is though. You don't really. He's kind of like, he reminds you of kind of like Anders Lee. I don't think he gets like, those two don't really get the respect as captains as they probably should, because I think all their teammates like them, but you don't really see the captain's captain strength that the captains have. But like he's a great leader, and I think the team likes him. I'm gonna stick with Bo because I mean, hey, he scored 30 goals this year. He probably had much more in him.
Does he have beef with JT Miller?
No, that's so stupid. That's so stupid. Miller's getting traded, I'm hoping, kind of, just so we can get good picks. But I think that ship sailed. I think we're kind of not going to get much. I think if we were going to get an insane return for JT Miller, it would have been this past trade deadline. That's my hot take of the day. If you want one, I think the ship has sailed on a really big return, like a Brandon Hagel × 2 return for JT Miller.
10th overall, is that where we're at now?
Yeah, so it was Val Nichushkin.
Val Nichushkin, who's
blossomed so well now, but obviously back then, and even just a few years ago, it looked like probably one of the biggest busts on this list.
But he isn't. He's not.
Yeah, I think after even in 2019 when he returned in Dallas, he didn't even score in like 60 games or 57 games, no goals, 10 assists. So you think he's gonna be horrible. Goes to Colorado, 27 points, 65 games. There's something there, and he's top 10 in Selke voting. and this year, popped off 62 games, 52 points, and scored 2 yesterday.
He's a free agent, isn't he, this year? So like this is a contract year for him.
Yeah, and I think he's getting some money, man. For what he's done the past few years, especially mainly on the defensive side. And he also doesn't really take many penalties. He only took 4 penalty minutes, 55 games last year. So it's literally a guy you want, big dude who can actually play defense and doesn't get penalties.
Okay. Dallas, number 10. They go with Buchnevich.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because they actually this is 2013. Little do we know that the Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin,
Sagan's
contracts. Little do we know that they actually suck.
Horribly as well. Underratedly bad contracts. People don't talk about it enough, I think, how bad they are.
They just they're I think we knew. I think at the time we all kind of knew, but none of us wanted to say anything because we all liked Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin.
I think I knew with Ben, but never. I didn't think Seguin would have this, this fall off.
But they have aged so poorly that Dallas is looking for any way to try and get rid of them. They're not, but they're not going to go. But they're looking for any reason to get rid of them. So now you get Buchnevich, who, as I was looking earlier this week, fucking, you kind of touched on it. Slow development to get to where he is now.
Yeah.
But also, awful deal by the Rangers to get rid of him for Sammy Blais.
I understand the contract issues there. I just don't understand why you'd use that space to sign Barclay Goodrow, who's been good, and I think he's probably been worth the money this year at least, but it's not going to last. Whereas Buchnevich, he's just been getting better and better each year, and he's probably better than Goodrow on the defensive end, if we're being honest here. Goodrow's a good bottom 6 guy, and he's probably one of the best bottom 6 guys you want. He's the same boat as I put Tyler Mott there, and I don't know, there's a bunch of guys who can just play bottom 6, and they never really do much wrong down there.
Here's the thing. With the Goodrow contract, Goodrow, whatever, Goodrow, we just know that contract is just meant for them to win now. They'll deal with whatever consequences at the end of that contract, because they're trying to win now. It's like the Zach Hyman deal. The Zach Hyman contract is a great example of this. Of the Hyman contract, it's pretty good now. It's just gonna suck ass so much.
With the way it's obviously everyone talks about how players like Zach Hyman age terribly, and it happens all the time, right? Yes. Players who play that aggressive game will obviously age much worse, but Buchnevich doesn't really play that gritty game. He's obviously when he was on the range last year, he cross-checked Mantha in the face, and even this year he headbutted a dude, but okay, that sounds horrible now that I say that, but it's a guy. He put up 76 points in 73 games this year. He's so reliable defensively. Probably one of the most underrated things about him is that defensive side of him.
Well, and he's also a guy at a time we're in 2013 when we're moving away from big power forwards to skilled shooters and guys who can score. Smaller guys who can score, and teams are now drafting that more and more. You still have some guys in this draft who are kind of that, but for the most part, we're drafting skilled shooters, skilled playmakers.
And I think Buchnevich was always that in New York. I think most people in New York thought of him as what Burakovsky is right now. I know he's Swedish, but it's similar to that, whereas he's a guy who can get you 40 to 60 points and is a skilled winger, and that's it. That's all you need. And then Buchnevich has now become probably more valuable than Tarasenko is, probably more valuable than most of the wingers on the team. He's probably the most reliable winger on that team at this point. I don't know, maybe Kyrou. I don't even know if he's in.
Hey, don't sleep on Robert Thomas.
I don't know. I guess, but he had a rough playoffs up until the end few games. But Yeah, Buchnevich is a guy who's so good. I'm straight up here. He's better than Bo, but like, I gave my reasoning. I'm not going to go back to that.
So I'll take Pavel Buchnevich,
Yeah.
10th to Dallas. You have the 11th pick, and Philadelphia.
Let me pull up 11th Philadelphia. I think it was that Morin. Yeah, so Morin.
That's the Samuel Morin pork.
Yeah,
pick.
I think he's fully retired now. He's not retired, but I think came out that he's forced to retire from the NHL following knee injuries. I mean, knee injuries you can't really come back from, which is really unfortunate. It's just a tough break because he was a hard worker. It was unfortunate that he kind of couldn't work his way up. And he can't really do much about the injuries.
He was like part of a really hyped Philly decor where they had Morin, they had Ghost, Ivan Provorov. They had the talent defensively in the system, and just it never worked. I mean, Provorov, Ghost is Ghost. Like,
yeah,
it never. It's literally like it didn't go as well as I thought it would, but
it's a really unfortunate circumstance, to be honest, and some Chuck Fletcher moments, trading. I'm not going to go to the Goss Despair trade. Sammy Morin, I don't have him.
No.
I think I will go Shea Theodore here. I think Shea Theodore, it was either, I think the most comparable guy to Morin probably would have been Pesci, but I will go with Shea Theodore. Probably, I don't know do I say he's more valuable than Pietrangelo at this point? I can't say that. I don't know if I can say that. But 52 points, 52 points, 78 games this year, top 10 Norris voting past 2 years, all-star. I don't know why Anaheim ever traded him that quick. I think it was that 4 years after
that was the expansion draft.
Oh, that was a Clayton Stoner moment.
That was Scott will tell you it's the expansion draft that fucked them.
Yeah, he's on one of the best contracts in hockey for the next 3 years. Saying how Vegas didn't make the playoffs with how well Theodore played this year, his best season probably by far, and he's been so good in the playoffs for him too. Like in the 2020 run, I remember as a Canucks fan, he's insane. He's such a good puck moving defenseman. It's you don't really think of him. When you look at him, you don't really think of that guy being a puck moving defenseman. He's 6'2", probably around 200 pounds. Can't really see it, but he's 200, 210 pounds ish. Like he's a big dude, deceptively big guy, and he's moving the puck around. Same thing with kind of like Heiskanen, maybe not to the extent of Heiskanen, but there's a guy who can move the puck around, and he's just so gifted offensively.
Like, and he's kind of one of those like modern day defensemen that I was talking about, like Seth Jones, or you talk about with Darnell Nurse, where it's just like puck moving, skilled offensively. It's just a quality player, like just a really good guy. Like every team would want a Shea Theodore on their team.
Yeah,
everybody would want a Shea Theodore.
I'll be honest with you. The defensive side isn't really what you're getting him for here. I think he's not that good defensively. I'll be honest. He's on the lower end. I wouldn't say he's like Tyson Berry bad, but he's serviceable. He's a good defenseman. He can play defense. I just don't think he's on the level of like where like Adam Fox and McCarr are, where they're locking down players and being the best offensive guys on their team.
Like all that's true. Edmonton would probably pay him 9.5 if they could, and I still think he's just a really. I would be happy if Shea Theodore was on the Red Wings. I would love to be watching Shea Theodore every night.
So yeah, the trade back in the day was they trade Theodore to Vegas, so they select Clayton Stoner, which would protect Manson and Vatanen, who are both not on the team. Manson's a game away from going to the finals. Vatanen just won the World Hockey Championship, so I mean, hey, they're both look like they're in better spots right now.
So that's Shea Theodore 11 to Philadelphia, and that would add to if Shea Theodore was on Philadelphia now, they would.
He's above Provorov. I think realistically, I've kind of been going back.
No, he's above Provorov, but he's below Ristolainen.
Yeah. Oh, is it Provorov Ristolainen or not Provorov Ristolainen? Is it Theodore Ristolainen to go with that? They probably go with it. If it's Vigneault, they go with it.
Yeah, probably because you have the offense, or you have the defense in Theodore and the offense of Ristolainen. That's what you have.
Dude, okay. Next pick. Are they still Phoenix at this point? Yeah, Phoenix.
12. This is the Phoenix Coyotes, who originally took Max Domi, who I do listen.
That's a good pick.
I like me some Max Domi.
Yeah,
I think kind of wish I didn't give up on him.
Yeah, I think he still has a lot of talent there. It's mainly offensive. I think we've seen he's not really a defensive guy. But 72 points in 82 games in his rookie season. He was one of the best rookies. 52 points, 81 games. I know that's 8 years ago now or 7 years ago, but the talent's there, right? And yeah, he's been on some rough teams recently, right? Like Columbus, Carolina. He's getting like 10 minutes, man, and he's been good in those 10 minutes too. I argue, like he scored the only goals in the game sevens. He was the only guy scoring in the game sevens. Okay, like I don't know what else you want us to say. Like he's been good.
And here's the thing about Domi is that he got traded to. I remember he got traded to Montreal, right?
Yeah, and that's where he had his career year, and he's good.
And it was just like, yeah, you know what? This is he's out of Arizona. It's a change. He's out of Arizona. Change of scenery, different culture. Should go well, and they use him as a center. And I'm sorry, but Max Domi is not best served as a center. Yeah. And it's like all those guys, before Claude Julie. Who am I thinking of? Was he with Michel Therrien?
Oh, I think he was. Let me.
That's a throwback. But it's
that's that's rough, right? It's Michel Therrien. It's rough.
But it's all these guys who are trying to force him to be a center. And it's like, he's not a center. Like, just put him on the wing, give him 12 to 14 minutes a night on in a depth role, and it's perfect. It's perfect. And it just never clicked in Arizona. Never clicked in Arizona. Not really. Didn't really click in Montreal. They trade him. He's part of the Josh Anderson trade, which. Okay.
I think that trade kind of worked out for both sides in that. Yeah. I don't know. The Josh Anderson contract's not the best, but he's been fine. Like for what it's worth, like he helped him get to the 3 games away from winning a Stanley Cup. Like I don't think you can really necessarily complain at this point about it.
But instead, 12 overall. I gotta go Rasmus. No. I'm gonna go with Brett Pesce.
Yeah, okay, never mind. I was about to say this is the point where we get off, but I think we're kind of on the same wavelength here.
No, I'm going Pesce here. Again, just another solid defenseman. He gets lost in the mix of things in Carolina just because of the fact that Carolina doesn't get a lot of attention, and when it is on defense, it's either Slavin, Tony DeAngelo for the wrong reasons, or Jake Gardner for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I don't we don't talk about Pesce enough as a defenseman just because he is kind of boring.
Yeah, he's not flashy or nothing. Like where Slavin, you can pull some stuff like that you don't expect him to do. It's kind of like Uyghur, where it's like, oh, this guy's actually really good offensively. You don't even realize it. Yeah.
And the analytics like Pesce, and the analytics say he's a quality defenseman. But he's just a solid overall guy. He has 155 career points in 474 games. He's just a solid defenseman on a solid Carolina team. I
There's nothing much to say to add to that. It's really you're 100% correct. That's literally it.
Brett Pesce is that guy in high school who no one has beef with. Everybody's just kind of cool with him. It's just that's just Brett. Yeah,
you're not even necessarily good friends with the guy, but everyone's daps him up when you see him.
Yeah, but then somebody comes up to you, it's like, oh man, fuck Brett, and it's just like, what did Brett, what would Brett like? What did Brett do? Like, why are you
Yeah,
upset at
he's a
Brett?
guy like everyone like he talks shit about him. Everyone comes to beat him up, dude.
Yeah, it's just like what's yeah.
I
Brett Pesce 12th to the then Phoenix Coyotes. I don't think that changed anything. Literally, that does nothing. I think for the Coyotes. I
What'd you
don't
say?
think I don't think it does anything for the Coyotes.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
think
it's a,
it literally like has a neutral effect on the team. It's like it's just a lawful neutral. Like it doesn't really
yeah.
do anything for the Coyotes whatsoever.
Um. Okay. Next pick.
Winnipeg is 13. They took Josh Morrissey with this pick.
I have Josh Morrissey a few picks below this. Josh Morrissey would have sufficed here. I think this year was his best year of his whole career. I don't know if that's a hot take from you. That's probably looking at your face, but
No, I
he
listen.
bounced back much better defensively from what I saw from the analytics, and
Yes,
even watching the games, he looked much more engaged. Watching the bubble games, especially, he did not look like a serviceable defenseman in some games, but he did not look like a top defenseman like they want him. I believe he can be like what Morgan Riley is, whereas like he's the number one guy, but like you don't really, it's not like you don't want him to be. Kind of like what Quinn Hughes arguably could be. I hope he's not. I hope Quinn Hughes has been improving a lot, so I can't say I'm not gonna jinx him or nothing.
the funny thing with me is people hearing like like Jets fans who are like, what we need is defense, and it's just like you guys like have Josh Morrissey, Brendan Dillon, Neil Pionk, like Schmidt, like your overall like core of D-men isn't that bad. I get why. Like,
I'll be honest though, it's funny because probably DeMello's their best, one of their better defensemen
DeMello, like literally Dylan DeMello, like another like solid like they're
on a good
one.
contract too. Like they have some. I don't know. Winnipeg's weird, man. I don't understand it.
But it's like
I'm gonna.
they traded Truba too, and it's just like, yeah, no, we're missing like top D man. It's like Jacob Truba. I like Jacob Truba. He wasn't really a top D guy, but
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, Truba's been good up until today. He was really good. I'd say for the
Yeah.
Rangers. Today, he's the reason they lost. Um, I'm not gonna go with him. I'm gonna go with another right-handed guy. It's Ryan. Or it's Tyler Truba. He wasn't in this draft, but I'm going with Ryan Pulak. I think it's a guy. I think he brings a lot of what probably what Winnipeg needs, which is a guy who's more defensive oriented, but can play the. He kind of reminds you of probably a better version of Morrissey or even a better version of Pionk. I think that's just a taller guy who can he's just good defensively, good penalty killer, doesn't really take many penalties, and it's just a good defenseman. It's kind of the same with Pellich, right? That's why they work so well together in New York.
And it's kind of like Pesci too, and like none of these guys are flashy. Like they're literally just like consistently good D-men that you can rely upon.
He has a shot on him too, dude. He's pretty good offensively.
He does have a shot on him. That is a good point. He does have a nice shot.
Yeah, there's not much to add to that. I'd say I think it's just pretty obvious. He's just been good. Obviously, I think this year was probably a down year for him, but like for who wasn't it for that team? I don't think Barzal even was at 0.8 points a game this year. But yeah, it's whatever. What's the next one?
I believe it's Columbus.
Yes, it is. They took Wenberg.
Do we go with Wenberg? No.
Nah. Who are you gonna go with?
You know what? I'll do it. I'll go.
Come on, say it. I know what you want to say.
I'll go Darnell Nurse.
Okay, let's go.
I'll take Nurse because listen, like Seth Jones, I think he's a good defenseman. There's just no reason to be putting him as a number one and paying him $9.25 million. There just isn't. I'm sorry. Like you there are
this timeline would say that they would have Nurse, Werenski,
and Seth Jones. Like they literally have like three of the same guys.
And exact same dudes.
And like I'm sorry, but
Werenski also signed the Hughes deal where it's like 6 years because like we're not going to do 8 because I know I'm going to leave.
Yeah, and I mean like there are just like
Nurse at his best is a really good defenseman, though. I'm not gonna.
Nurse. Here's the thing, Nurse, unlike Duncan Keith, doesn't get like fucking turned around at the blue line anytime somebody goes by.
It's just sometimes, man, when he's, it's obviously the Canadian thing where we are always more critical of people we watch more, and just Canadian media in general. But there's times where he just looks scared when there's guys coming towards him. It's insane to watch. He's not, it's not really a good penalty killing defenseman. He's not. He's good defensively sometimes. I'm not. I'll give him that. It's obviously defenseman at the end of the day. He's your number one guy, so he's pretty good defending. The main thing there is his offensive capabilities. I would say. I don't think like his offense shines more than his defense does, if we're being honest here. And he's not really the most disciplined guy, so that's kind of why he drops much more for me here.
And like, do you know that Darnell Nurse? Good Lord, Darnell Nurse has the fourth highest career penalty minutes from this draft class.
I see you number one is.
Yes, yeah, that totally checks out. Listen,
yeah, it's Zadorov, Domi, and Ryan Hartman, 35 goal scorer. Ryan Hartman.
Listen,
I'd go with Nurse here too, right? Like it's a good pick. It's just it's rough. It's rough what the contract is for him. If he's getting 7, if he has the Ekman Larson contract at this current point, it's fine.
If he's getting a Riley deal,
yeah, it's fine. If he's getting the Hughes deal, Riley deal, I think it's 7. You cannot pay more than 7.5 for him. No, I think 7.5 is also like 5 for.
And I also want to say with Nurse, I think Nurse this postseason, I want to do a rankings on this. Nurse is up there on my fake tough guy list. Nurse does so much shit after the whistle that it's like, dude.
That's what I want to do now. Let me think of my top, because I was thinking about it today. I would give, as much as I like him, I would give McDonough one, because even though he's a guy, even though he's a guy who can fight, I probably could, right? I don't know. I don't watch Ryan McDonough fights, but he's a guy who's a dick after the whistle. But I've never seen him drop the gloves. That's why I wouldn't give like Mariner Reeves this stuff, because you see him fight all the time.
No. This is like I would throw Evander Kane in this list, because I think Evander Kane.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Guy. There's another guy I'm thinking of. I can't think of.
Darnell Nurse,
Tony
DeAngelo.
Not really. From what I've watched, Myers isn't really that. And Myers has fought people too, and he's done pretty well in them, I'd say. Not for the right reasons. I think it was Dylan last year.
It was like, I'm thinking back to like the pandemic bubble, when it's just like, was he like, did him and Kevin Fiala have like beef for like 3
No, I know the COVID, like the Canada division. I know Myers had a brutal hit, got suspended, and they had to fight the next day. I'm
thinking back to like when they played Minnesota in the qualifying round, and I swear like Myers and somebody else were like trying to go toe for toe for like who could take more penalties.
Oh, God.
No, anyways, we're getting off topic here. We'll do that for another podcast. It's fake tough guy rankings. Darnell Nurse, 14th overall to Columbus. You're welcome, Darnell. I'm doing you a solid.
Okay. I think I'm gonna do.
This is 15. This is the Islanders. They took Pulak in real life, so now they're fucked. Now you took their guy. They're scrambling here as to who. They weren't going to take Darnell Nurse, I'll tell you that much. But they're still scrambling.
Well, if they want a defenseman here, I think probably the best defenseman here is probably Morrissey. I would go with Morrissey. I'm not going to go with him though. I think I'm going to go with. My heart's telling me to do it, man. It's just funny.
Are you gonna?
It's Sunday night, man. I'm kind of lost here. I'm not gonna lie. He's a really good player, so I want to go with him. But it's between one of your guys. Like, you know who it is, obviously. How I said it.
Oh, I thought you were okay. I thought you were going a different route here.
No, I'll go with him. I'll go with Tyler Bertuzzi.
Okay.
I'm not going with Mantha first. I'm sorry. I'm going with Tyler Bertuzzi. Tyler Bertuzzi, this year he obviously had a great year, 62 and 68. A lot of that is attributed to the way Raymond and Larkin played. But no disrespect to him, 30 goals in 70 games, less than 70 games is a good feat. And to get a 30 goal score this late in the draft is pretty good, I would say. And a guy who's
Imagine if
been consistently improving each year, right? Like he's not really the defensive guy, but he's fucking power forward. Like kind of like a definition of a power forward scorer, like essentially what every team wants. Marchand light, if you will.
I'm trying to think of who like kind of like a Zach not Hyman, Michael Bunting maybe kind of.
But I'd put Bertuzzi at a much higher
Yeah.
level than Bunting, because Bunting, we got to need to see more of him. He played well, but that was mainly because I would say Matthews and Marner drove it most of the play there.
I'm just trying to think of, like you said, like big physical dude who's not as big.
Not really that big. He's 6'1", so it's big, right? But it's nothing
It's
like
big it's big in today's world, but he's not afraid to throw the body around either.
Yeah, and that's what you want. And he's, for what it's worth, he's pretty disciplined. Like for what we're getting out of him, he's only had 47 penalty minutes this year in 68 games. He's never even had over 40 after, like, since this year. Like only this year's the only year he's had over 40. And so you're getting a guy who can be that tough dude you want, but he's not really taking the bad penalties each game that you might think he would. I think Bertuzzi's probably more valuable. I think Bertuzzi's probably more valuable to you than I think you think he is.
Here's the thing. I view him more as like a Red Wing, like where the Red Wings are now. Like remember not last year. Well, not this season, but last season when they moved Manta, because they decided like, yeah, Manta is probably not on like our timeline of winning compared to when his timeline of winning is. And
I think that's worked out well for him too, for both sides.
I think so, and I think that's kind of where Bertuzzi is too. Where it's like Bertuzzi is probably not on the same, like Bertuzzi should be in the playoffs right now, and
I'd hope they're there next year.
Pardon?
I'd hope they'd be there next year, hoping.
But that's court where I view him as. But like, no, Bertuzzi, like, fuck, if he was on, like, he's somebody like the Rangers would totally, like, if he was available, like the Rangers under Gallant, he would totally be a fit with the Rangers. He would probably.
Oh yeah, that's like that New York electric. He would soak that shit up, dude, all day. That's like Bertuzzi's like top 5 electric dude, some like at his peak.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I don't know how he would do with the Islanders at this time. Like it's kind of weird with Detroit now, and you know, Detroit and the Islanders are kind of vice versa. Where like Detroit was at the end of their success, going on a rebuild, where the Islanders were like ending their failures and then starting to get good. Like fucking Tyler Bertuzzi on those Islanders playoff runs too, man. Like
that would be, he'd get a song like Josh Bailey.
Yeah, like he would just be that good. I wouldn't doubt it for a second.
Yeah.
But that's a good pick, Bertuzzi to the Islanders.
16 to 20. I think we can probably just speed run this a bit more.
The Saber, God,
Zadorov. He's big. He takes 1-year contracts because no team will want to lock up Nikita Zadorov. That's bad. That's a bad thing to do.
This doesn't get talked about enough. The fact that the Buffalo Sabres took Nikita Zadorov and Rasmus Ristolainen with 2 top 20 picks. Like they not only did they like they swung for the fences with Ristolainen, they doubled down on the same player with Nikita Zadorov. Unfucking believable.
Yeah, the teams know that Zadorov is kind of a shutdown guy, whereas Ristolainen, they're still a chance.
God. The Sabres go with Josh Morrissey here.
Yeah, that's
because he is better. He is better than.
It's just Nikita Zadorov, but much better in every aspect except big. That's it. That's like Tyler Myers. His Instagram bio is just tall. That's it.
Yeah, he gets it. He understands.
He understands what it's for.
He knows his role.
I think we already touched on Morrissey a bit earlier. So
yeah, Morrissey, good player, good defenseman. Dub guy, you get a dub guy. I'm all for picking WHL guys. You get the 17th overall pick here.
That was Curtis Laser.
Was that so?
Lazar.
And that was Ottawa, wasn't it? Or is that Calgary?
Yeah, Ottawa.
Ottawa.
So my next upcoming guy is Bjorkstrand, but I'm gonna go with Carter Verhaeghe. I think. I think I'm gonna go.
Are you gonna go Carter Verhaeghe?
I might go Carter Verhaeghe over Bjorkstrand. I know there's more guys, but I think Verhaeghe is a guy that is just. It's just Ottawa. It just it depends on what you think of Verhaeghe. Verhaeghe is probably more of a comparable to Bunting than who we were just talking about than Tyler Bertuzzi was, I would say. I mean, I think maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being disrespectful to Carter Verhaeghe, but great player. He was leading Florida this year. I think we saw the best we've ever seen of Carter Verhaeghe in these playoffs. Great. He plays so well on whatever line. He's a guy literally you can play anywhere in the lineup. He's good defensively. He's not really a penalty killer, but he's a guy if you want him there, you probably could have played it. He's good on the power play. He's just a good all around winger. He has a good contract right now, so that kind of like if you're thinking about it that way. But it's a guy. I mean, championship mentality, I guess. I don't know. He didn't really play much in that Tampa run, but he was there.
He's definitely somebody Ottawa would have probably like moved on, like probably moved like there's been a Jad trade where it's like they would have moved him and taken a second rounder for like fucking throw in centerman here,
Hamonic,
or I'm trying to think of somebody else who like Sergei Kostitsyn.
Yeah, Andre, both of them. I think Bjorkstrand would have. I don't know. I think Bjorkstrand in my head right now. Maybe I don't know if Batherson was even in the picture at this point, but obviously he took Batherson, so I think that Bjorkstrand would have kind of fallen out there. Verhaeghe's a guy who can play both sides and is a much better defensive player than Bjorkstrand. I don't know if maybe you could hot take that. I don't really watch Columbus much. Maybe Columbus fans, if there's any, can tell me how great Bjorkstrand is defensively. But
I have a story about Bjorkstrand because former Portland Winterhawk, Dub story. I remember I was talking before one of our Silver Tips games with one of the broadcasters, and basically when he was talking with players, asking them about Oliver Bjorkstrand, like anytime they would just do a face off, it's like, yeah, this guy just won a draw. And they hadn't even dropped the puck. It's like, yeah, this guy already just won. Like, this guy's already just so good. He dominated junior so much.
Yeah, like, Bjorkstrand, I'm happy. Like, it's where I know. Okay, and this is like a plus minus thing. It doesn't matter. Minus 35, but like he was their best, like arguably their best forward. Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's stupid to look at plus minus unless it's the Zadorov or not Zadorov, the Ristolainen thing where minus 100.
It's so awful that you have to talk about it.
Yeah, it's like it's in like an outlier, but like a believable, like really believable where it's like not even an outlier on paper because it's like it's what you expect to whatever. 18 is San Jose from Detroit, I think.
All right, so I have 2 picks left. You have 1.
Was there originally? Sorry, it was Miracle Mueller. Yeah, that just didn't work.
Former ever Silvertip Miracle
Mueller. Yeah, that was another guy I was high on because he was really good in Chell. He wasn't good in NHL. Yeah, I know he got time with Devils recently, but I can't. Yeah, we got though.
Who am I gonna take here?
Yeah, you got a few guys. You got Duclair, Domi. You got Bjorkstrand.
You know what?
Drouin, Mantha.
You know what? I will go Domi because
you're gonna dive or Max Domi.
I'm gonna go Max Domi because of the fact that I've always said I want to play, like I said this years ago, I want a playoff line that is just Max Domi and the Tkachuk brothers.
Oh,
I just want that playoff line. I don't like if I get the opportunity to get Domi, I'm gonna figure out a way to get both the Tkachuks somehow and just run that line in the postseason and commit several felonies along the way.
I mean, hey, that could happen on Calgary one day, man. You never know.
But Domi, we talked about him. Really, I listen. You put him in like a middle, not even a middle six, like a bottom six role for like.
So that by the way, that Mirko Mueller, bro. Okay, so Mirko Mueller trade. Sorry, I just cut you off fully.
Yeah.
Mirko Mueller was traded to the Sharks, that pick, for a first later, like the 20th overall, and the 58th, which ended up being Mantha and Bertuzzi. So Detroit with the fleece there.
Ken Holland fucking nailed that one, didn't he?
Yeah, there you go. There's one.
Yeah. I'm gonna do Domi 18.
Yeah, that's fine. This is the point where it's like whatever. We kind of it's what you think, and I think that's a good. What do you call it?
I just like Max Domi.
Yeah. 19, I'll go with Andrew Kopp. 19 normally was Kirby Reichel. Kirby Reichel, where is it? I have so many tabs open. Kirby Reichel was in the. So is that pit? So it was originally Rangers, and that was the Rick Nash deal, which was Kirby Reichel's pick, Brandon Dubinsky, Artem Anisimov, and Tim Erickson for Rick Nash, Steven Dhaliwal, and the third round pick in this draft, which ended up being Pavel Buchnevich. So, so you just got like, it's absurd. It's really absurd. Some of these trades back. Man. And then, okay, we're not going to get to 22, but I'll talk about it real quick. That was a Mark Kandari, the signing rights to Redo Barrow, which I'm pretty sure they signed him and he played the next year as a starting goalie and they sucked. And then the pick, which ended up being Emile Poirier, and they traded away Jay Bouwmeester. So there's some rough trades in this draft. I think every trade here has been pretty rough.
Every trade sucks.
Yeah, every trade kind of sucks. There's any bad ones? There's Jack Johnson and Marco Dano for Jeff Carter. And there's Lane McDermott, Cody Payne, and the pick for Jason Dickinson for Jaromir Jagr.
Jaromir Jagr is involved in a 20.
Dude, there's so many insane trades in here. There's actually like the Camilleri, Kari Ramo for Zach Fucali and Patrick Holland and Rennie Bork. There's a Jacob De La Rose trade for Andre Kostitsyn.
So there is a Kostitsyn connection here.
There's the trade for the Klimchuk pick, Agostino for Jerome McGinley. Like there's some big trades in this draft. Some of them are worse than others. We're at 19. I'm not taking Kirby Reichel. I'm taking Andrew Kopp. Andrew Kopp has been so good in these playoffs. He's been a main reason why the Rangers. So this is also like, recency bias, and I kind of like the Rangers. But even on Winnipeg, watching him last year, I think I got a lot of more watch time last year, especially at the Canada bubble. I saw Winnipeg much more than I usually do. And Andrew Kopp's a guy who's so underrated. I don't think the points even really, you don't really get what, like he could have probably as many points, like he could be closer to point per game than like what he is. Like, but he does so many things well. He's a, I don't even know what, I always like comparing him to people like players to other players, but he's just a good two-way guy. He's like reliable, and he'll get you 60 points. There's not much to say. Yeah, Kopp, he's a guy you can play anywhere in the lineup. That's the best part about him. You see how he's been, I think he's on the third line a few times with the Rangers, but then, with Panarin and Strome, it like clicked instantly, and they've been great ever since. So, I mean, I think he's a guy who can also even move further up on this, because I think he still has a lot of unlocked potential. I mean, he was over point per game with them in the regular season, I'm pretty sure, at least with the Rangers in that small time frame, and he's been close to it with them recently, so that's good. And he's one of their best face-off takers.
This is arguably Pete Kopp.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we've always said that like Andrew Kopp is that guy, like, oh, if you get to the playoffs, he's going to do really well in the playoffs. And lo and behold, he's doing really well in the playoffs with the Rangers.
Obviously, I think Jets fans were happy that they made it to the third round because they get a first instead of a second with their trade, which is good for them.
I can't wait to see who they use it on. But yeah,
20th.
I like that pick. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the rest of his career. He's had some injury problems.
Yeah, I think that's the main issue with him, but I still think that's a good pick there. Just
Yeah.
especially the way he's been playing recently, which usually affects my picks a lot. I'll be honest. 20th Detroit,
Oh,
last one here. Do you think you're gonna
well,
stay with it? I stuck with it in mine, but there's so many other guys.
yeah, I probably, yeah, I'll stick with Manta.
Oh yeah.
I mean, again,
I maybe I would have went with Bjorkstrand there because we kind of really haven't talked. We talked about him earlier, but I
well,
think
I was gonna say I would either put Bjorkstrand, Burakovsky.
I think I'd put Bjorkstrand there instead of I called him Rick Nash Light. That's what I called Anthony Mantha.
But and I mean I get why, but like, yeah, Burakovsky. You have I really like Anthony Duclair.
Nichushkin is another one.
Nichushkin, Bjorkstrand, Ryan Hartman. Even like I do like
35 goals, Ryan Hartman.
I do like me a little Ryan Hartman. I do like me a little
third in penalty minutes this draft.
I do like me a little, Dominic Kubalik. Like I do like me a little bit,
He's a guy who's probably going to be on my list if it wasn't for the past 2 seasons. If it's just his rookie season, I probably would have put him on it.
I like a little, Miles Wood.
I'll give Arturi Lehkonen a shout out here too because he's been so good. He's another guy who probably doesn't get enough respect because he was so good last year and he's been arguably better this year in the playoffs. Just
like analytically, like he was Montreal's best player. Like if you go,
exactly.
I remember Jay Fresh like showing a bunch of graphics of like.
I can pull it up right now. I think I had a subscription to it for like a month, then I stopped using it. I still have. Do I still have it? But yeah, keep going.
Like basically, like Jay Fresh would whatever like because Montreal like this year, Jay Fresh would be like, listen, I don't know what the hell is going on in Montreal, but our Terry Lehkonen is actually performing well compared to everybody else who isn't.
Yeah, he's a 77% projected WAR and 75% offense. It's 97% even defense. He's pretty good, man, and it's upgrade from last year.
So I'm gonna go with Manta with the final pick.
Give some shout outs to some last players here. I think Manta's good. I think Manta's a guy who he's someone who I feel like can do so much better, and it never happens. So that's why I always have, I'm because I feel like the reason I would go with Bjorkstrand or Drouin here is because at least they can. I think they're capable of running their own line. I don't know if Mantha's that guy. I don't know if Mantha's a guy who can run. He's not like you can't be the engine to provide. He's the guy who's like you're passing to score. He's the guy who's in there to be a big body. Whereas I think Drouin can do more dynamic things with the puck or Bjorkstrand, but that's just me. It depends on what you want him for.
Well, and I think with Manta, like now that we're in the playoffs, Manta's one of those guys who I would like on if I was a playoff team, I would love to be playing for instead of playing against.
That's the point. That's where I like it's. Would you get at that point? Would you go with Bjorkstrand or Drouin? Drouin's obviously gotten pretty far in the playoffs with Tampa in 2015 or 2016, and he did really well in it. But not every good scorer in the playoffs or in the regular season will play good in the playoffs. I think Burakovsky's one because we were talking about him here. He had 62 points this year, and he's not been nearly non-existent in the playoffs. So it's not always. That's a guy who I think can do pretty well on his own. So it depends on what you need. That's why I don't I've kind of learned to be more sympathetic of GMs. Not in all cases, obviously, because Jake Virtanen incident and all that shit. We Canucks have some bad picks.
I don't think it's a matter of. I think what it is now, I'm getting older and I'm getting more mature, and I'm kind of understanding. I'm getting a better understanding of why teams are picking these guys and what they're looking for, and especially we're doing this draft redraft almost 10 years after the original draft, right?
Exactly.
It's such a crapshoot. When I'm doing my research, I'm looking at all these players, and it's if I'm a GM, you're really just hoping for one NHLer. You're looking for like there's 32 guys in a draft who, or 40 guys, 40 to 60 guys, I'll say,
That'll make the NHL probably.
that'll make
like,
the NHL
and be
and
like relatively good, like play like couple hundred games at least.
yeah, and then there's 30 guys who are actually probably gonna be like real legit,
like you're getting like 500 plus games out of them, like in
yeah,
there.
you're the odds of you actually getting Hall of Famers or like top line players, it's just so rare and so unlikely.
Yeah, if you're reading top line, like bona fide top line in this draft, like wingers, like it's really just the top few guys there. It's McKinnon, Barkov, Gensel, Lindholm, Buchnevich, and then the rest. Maybe Bertuzzi gets up there one day.
You have a
That's four guys.
Yeah, and fucking you have really two goalies in this draft class.
Yeah,
who's really worth draft. Jari was the other one.
Jari, okay.
And I mean, like Jari,
he's been good recently, and he got so much flack for Game 7. That's not his fault. I don't know why people were giving flack for Game 7. But he's a guy who he's been up and down. You never know what you're gonna get out of him. Obviously, this year you got the good side of him. You might get the games. You might get the New York Islanders series.
Oh yeah.
Whereas then you get one good goalie, Saros, and this is 10 years after, so like what it's been. But
and again, like, not to be be on a dead horse here, but like Saros took so long to get to this point. It's almost 10 years, and now Saros is finally an elite goalie. Like, you have to have that patience. You have to have that plan in place for that guy you're drafting, or else you're setting them up to fail to begin with.
I mean, you can tell like a lot of the plans from these. I think Buffalo's plan at this point was obviously go big. You draft those two guys, Zadorov and then him, and then you draft Girgensons the year before. You're going for this big lineup, and then 2 years later, like, oh fuck, it's not working. Get Jack Eichel, and then that doesn't work, and then it just keeps going on and on. Now they get Owen Power.
Well, and like with Buffalo, like they're like fucking everybody was zagging from those kind of guys, and Buffalo still was like, no, we're gonna get 6'4" big D men, and it's just like they didn't get it. Like the Sabres, like that's a takeaway from this draft class, is like the Sabres didn't get it. They didn't understand that, like, where the league was going, and as a result, they paid the price. They're still swimming in futility. I also want to talk about. Sorry. Do you have one more point you wanted to add with that?
I was gonna say, like, I mean, at least Girgensson made one All-Star game. I'm pretty sure. Right? Was it Girgenson's?
Wasn't he voted in?
No, I don't. Maybe it wasn't Girgenson's. It was someone else, but someone got voted in because their whole country voted for him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Girgensons, wasn't it? With Latvia.
Oh no, it was. I don't think he ever actually got in, but he was voted top because all Latvia voted for him.
I was gonna say I doing research for this. The New York Rangers they killed it this draft class, because they had I'm pulling it up here. The New York Rangers drafted Pavel Buchnevich, 75th overall.
Yeah.
Anthony Duclair, 80th overall, and Ryan Graves, 110th overall. Like, GMs are happy if they get one quality guy in a draft class. The Rangers got 3. And the Rangers butchered, like, none of those guys are on the team anymore. Yeah. They butchered all of those trades. They butchered the Buchnevich trade. They fucking traded Duclair and whatever for I guess they got a first round pick, but I have to go back and see what all those picks were.
And then there was the Graves for Bigris.
For Craig Bigris. They traded Ryan Graves for Craig Bigris because
was
Colorado.
Craig? It was Chris.
Sorry.
Chris Bigris.
Chris Bigris. Craig sounds like Craig Reve. Chris Bigris, because Colorado knew where the league was heading at this time. This wasn't a few years down the road with the Graves trade, but fuck, I can't believe the Rangers, as much as I like the Rangers and how they built this team, I can't believe the Rangers squandered 3 quality players. But I mean, that's just like,
Yeah,
people are so impatient now. People are so
maybe and look how good Graves would have been instead of no disrespect to Braden Schneider, right? Like he's kind of another guy who's kind of just like Ryan Graves is an upgrade on Braden Schneider at this point in time. Braden Schneider is gonna be good. I think he's gonna be much. I think it's just he kind of got thrown in this year, and then it's also the case that Patrick Nemeth is so bad, and Jared Tenorti they're horrible, and don't even get me started on Libor Hayek. Like they have such terrible depth down there that imagine Graves on the bottom pairing with Braun, and how good that would be instead of Schneider and Braun, because Braun's been pretty good this playoffs.
Well, that's just it. Like, again, fucking Libor Hayek was in the McDonough trade, and it's just like you probably don't need to, if you have Graves, you're not probably worried that much about it. But I don't know.
I mean, then again, the course of everything may have changed. They might not draft Miller. They might not do this and that. But I mean, if it had it worked out, everything else worked the same way. Graves is an upgrade here. But what it is.
I think one of my takeaway for all of this is that you need to have patience. I get that we live in a world where everything needs to happen right now and everybody wants to win right now. But with hockey players especially, you have to be patient in drafting them. You have to have a proper system in place for them to do well. If you don't have that system, they're probably not going to do well. That's why the Red Wings were, as good as they were for so long, because they had that system in place to get players in, not only to just Detroit, but getting them into Grand Rapids and then, working their way up properly.
Canucks had that with a few guys too back in the day. I mean, it's getting. I'm hoping it's a bit better now. Benning did do a decent enough job with most, not Vertanen obviously, and a few others, and Shinkarik in this, but that was Gillis. But we did pretty good with the Manitoba Moose back there. We got Bieksa, he beat the shit out of Fedorov and then got a spot. And then I saw someone I think there's a picture of Elliot tweeting out hey, Bieksa gets his back again. You saw that tweet. It's picture
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, the first reply is I'll put this guy, get the security card. He might jump somebody. And the first reply is a Bieksa fan account saying Fedorov's alt account found. But they did a good job of Bieksa, Kessler, and a bunch of guys. And Hogson was another one. There's a bunch of guys that went through the system, and I think teams don't really do that much now. They kind of throw them into. I think I would always wished Kako got another year or two in Europe before he came over, and same with Puljujarvi. What would their trajectories be like if they didn't have this this wall they hit, right? When you hit that wall as a rookie where you're kind of thrown in and you don't really, maybe those are guys who are big guy, these big prospects that were meant to revolutionize your team and then come and do nothing. And what would another few years of development do? It's just how the sport is now in hockey. But I'm hoping it turns back to give them a bit more patience. That's why I'm not too quick on calling anyone a bust from the past 5 drafts right now.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Nathan MacKinnon is the exception, not the rule. Everybody wants to find Nate McKinnons and Alec Barkovs.
Those are also 2 guys who are they ended up blooming pretty late. Huberdeau especially. I know Huberdeau isn't here, but we're talking about Florida. And then Mac too. Mac was only getting 50 points a year, and then he ended up out of nowhere. He's getting he will get hundreds when he gets a healthy season in.
And remember too, with Colorado, they had the really shitty year.
They had
that year. And I'm sure there were people then who were just you got to get rid of all the, Landeskog, you got to get rid of all these guys.
And Rantanen's probably in the mix. You get just everything you worked for, and why would you get rid of these guys? So, now you get Makar worked out so quick, right? Not everyone's gonna be like that, And
not everybody's Makar or Bowen Byram. Not all those
and even Byram's probably he was a top 5 pick. He's that's like a guy who's like an average top 5 pick where it's like he's gonna be good, and it just takes like that trajectory. He has like a normal trajectory. He's like the most. I think that's what I would think of. I think he can get to like the star level, but he's just taking a normal trajectory where some people might take like where McKinnon's like he. That's where like maybe Byram's at. Like you might take the McKinnon trajectory where he's like he's good now, but he might get even better later. Where like Byram's at that 50-point mark, where you'll get to that 100-point mark, kind of like similar to McKinnon.
Any other names that we're missing in this draft
I
class?
have a list of Canucks here. Spencer Martin, shout out Madison Bowie, Justin Bailey. I'll shout out Marco Dano. He wasn't Canuck, but Hunter Shinkarik, Tyler Mott, Tucker Poolman, and Jason Dickinson.
Mott Girl Summer.
Yeah, I'm hoping they win just because I like Tyler Mott.
Other guys I feel like we should mention that were in this draft class. Will Butcher.
Kind of falling off.
Well, Will Butcher always just is like, Will Butcher is that guy in Chow who's just available every summer on a cheap deal in my GM.
Yeah, but he's like his rating hasn't been like lowered yet, but he's still like 84 overall from like 2 years ago. But he's actually like no, I don't know. I don't want to just bully this guy, but there's a bunch of guys like we talk about Duclair, Jari, Kubalik, Ristolainen, God forbid, but Burakovsky's another guy. We probably could have brought him in. It's just the inconsistency with him we've seen recently, but he got 62 points and like I don't know if he played all the games, but it was around 80 games. That's a top 5 scorer on their team.
Cal Peterson was in this draft class.
Yeah. I think the next goalie up after that was Marcus Hogberg or Eric Comrie, from what I saw.
Yeah, one of those guys. God.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty like deceptively deep. I think would be the best word. There's a bunch of guys that are still playing, and like there's a bunch of guys that have made their way and like impacted in ways that Drouin's not the top guy, but he's a top 6 forward, and I don't think anyone would complain having him on his team. And then Hartman took a while to get to the point he's at, but then now he's scoring 35 goals a season. Apparently, who knows? What if he gets to 40 next year? What if he doesn't fall off and he just goes even further? You never know. Never know.
Adam Ernie.
Yeah, GOAT. Legend.
Is in this draft class. He has a smaller point share, fewer point shares than Nick Paul, who is also in this draft class.
Oh, really?
Nick Paul.
Damn,
Nicholas Paul, which is that Nick Paul. So Nick Paul is in this draft class.
Oh, he is. I didn't completely forgot about it. He's a guy who could probably get in here, like, and he deserves a mention. That's fair. Thanks for bringing that up.
Andreas Janssen.
Yeah, he had a good start to the season. I know he kind of fell off, and Brack kept going. I think that was a good thing for the Devils. He played well. Most guys who leave the Leafs usually play well.
Well, I was gonna say there's 3 guys in the round 7 who have played at least 200 NHL games, and that's Kubalik, Janssen, and Weegar. I don't know how rare that is, but like
that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yes, getting Weegar in that. There's a lot of guys. Nick Paul, obviously, I think Ottawa like nurtured him so much. Then you trade him away. It got rough for a bunch of Ottawa fans, but I think they got Matthew Joseph in return. But that's kind of worked out for him.
Nick, the funny thing, like, I like Nick Paul. Like, I'm not just like I liked him like when he was with Ottawa because he was part of those guys that they were rebuilding with, and then they just moved on from him. And it's just like, okay, so now you're trading away guys from the rebuild who like you told me were going to be good. I'm not that I'm an Ottawa.
Someone gave him a Selke vote last year. Sorry, I thought that was insane.
The most ridiculous thing ever was somebody giving Luke Glendening a Selke vote when Detroit
someone gave Horvat and JT Miller votes this year. Top 5 votes.
Probably Drance.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, Miller vote. I think he did that as a joke, dude. 100%. There's no way. Dude, I've said that the reason we lost many overtime games is because of JT Miller. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. Whoever's did that needs to be put on a watch list, dude.
Is there any other name in this that we're missing here. I
Um,
know Krister's Godlevskis,
okay,
whatever they.
that's enough. We ended at
I
that.
just want to throw that out there because
He stopped Canada from almost winning a game once. Almost.
Jordan Subban.
Canucks, another Canucks legend. I should have forgot him.
He's in this draft class.
Fun fact: Demko and him lived together in Utica, and they got their house robbed at gunpoint.
That's really fun.
That's a fun fact.
That sounds really. Maybe that's our next podcast segment. It's just fun facts and just facts that aren't fun at all. It's actually just quite
Jordan Subban and Demko get robbed at gunpoint. Their back door unfortunately didn't work, and the robbers figured that out. Utica is not safe.
Also in this draft class is Mason Geertsen, former Vancouver Giant who told fellow draft class member Tyler Pertuzzi to get vaccinated this year.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to end it off. That's the best place to end it off.
Rav, thank you very much for doing this. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no
I we'll do something here coming up. I know we want to do a music pod with Matthew Mosqueda.
Oh yeah, we'll brought that up.
Maybe we'll do a basketball thing. I know I'm going to do a basketball thing with Fuji here soon. Maybe we'll do another hockey redraft.
We can do like a playoffs recap or something at the end. I'm down, whatever works.
Yeah, we can talk about,
I'm down for that music one. We can maybe not the same way we did Donda COB one, but I'm down to talk about the music because there's some good music recently, man. Like Kendrick Lamar was really
Jack
good.
Harlow.
Okay, maybe we don't. I said good music. What else? I mean, the Post Malone one yesterday. I only listened to 2 songs of it, just like not the singles, but like the song with Doja Cat was like the catchiest song I've heard in a while. So I don't really like pop music as much as I did as a kid, but that was pretty good.
It's the summer of Doja Cat.
Yeah.
Other plug I have this week, I got at least 1 article, maybe 2 on the way if I'm really ambitious. Now that I have nothing going on, I'm just doing a bunch of freelancing. So if you're looking to, get a freelancer, or maybe we'll start doing some more SYP stuff, hit me up. You know where to call me. We'll be back again soon. Thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you again soon at some point. No pod with Scott this week. Scott's on vacation. He's in Kelowna. So Scott will not be available. Rav is the new Scott.
What's the podcast on tomorrow? I could probably pull something out if you want me to.
We didn't even have a plan to do a pod tomorrow, so maybe we'll do.
I mean, if you have some last second bullshit, I'll pull it up. I'll try my best. I'll try.
Maybe we'll just do a fuck around pod. Maybe we'll just talk for like 40 minutes until the Zoom ends.
And then we put it on TikTok, and then it's like everyone on TikTok's like, oh, like how the fuck? This is like the definition of, hey, let's do a podcast, guys. And that's what it's gonna end up being.
And then
you should post TikTok clips of these podcasts, dude. I honestly, I think that would be funny, just because the comments would be horrible. Imagine if we post that one clip that got really like viral for us, like the Avalanche clip last year before they choked.
You do all this stuff like ironically, like I post like, I say something like how, the Edmonton Oilers are the best team in the NHL right now after beating Calgary, but I post that right now. Like I posted that on TikTok. I post
my favorite is one podcast where like I saw this clip where it's like the literal example of this where it's like clubs they have no reason to allow you to bring out your own alcohol and because you just if they don't allow you to bring it in, they just upsell you there. That's why alcohol is so expensive. I'm like, holy shit, there's no way these fuckers have a podcast. But that's why I feel like this sometimes this can become, because we'll just start talking about random shit.
No, it's people just talking about like normal, like just like obvious stuff where it's like, I mean, like, when I go on airplanes and they have like, the seatbelt light on, I don't always put that on because I think it's just restricting my movement. It's not good for my hips. When I put that seatbelt on the airplane, it's not good for my hips. And it's like, bro, it's a seatbelt. What are you? Because I think that's just also the world we live in now, where you can just say anything you want, and there's like 20%.
Someone will hear it out. Someone will hear it out.
20% of the population will believe you. Where it's just like, I think stairs are bad for my feet. Like,
that's what my favorite is. We're kind of going on a tangent here just before the end, but like my favorite last thing for me is just like those Twitter accounts where it'll be like it'll be like Bleacher Report or with like just a fake like check
Like
mark, and they'll
the
say
7 with like the 0.
yeah, I saw 100,000 likes on this fake one of Russell Westbrook wanting a trade. I'm like, oh my gosh. And there's like half the people are believing this shit. I'm like, there's no way. My favorite one is just Ball Sack Sports. Like, I know they got deleted and they're like fell off or something. But like Ball Sack Sports, like a month was cooking on Twitter. They got Trae Young twice with their bullshit. Like I think, I don't know, they made like Draymond say some bullshit, like insane stuff. They're like, oh, Draymond said this messed up shit. And then Trae Young's like, wow, man, Dre needs to wake up. And then everyone's roasting this guy. He's like, you got ball sacked, bro.
I love fucking the world we live in now, where like Draymond, speaking of like, fucking fake tough guys, Draymond like talks so much shit on the court, and then he just goes home and does a podcast.
Yeah. Draymond right after this game said even when KD was here, the team was ran through Steph. So he's talking shit after winning one finals game. He's not even talking shit about the other team. He's talking shit about some other dudes. That's just Draymond, dude. Draymond's Draymond, bro.
It's like, bro, you don't need like the game is your podcast content. You don't need to create your own content.
No, I don't listen to it, but that's something I would be intrigued. I think the last thing I say for sure is I'd listen to the JJ Redick podcast. A few times I listened to it, it's been good, and that's a guy who's pretty insightful. There's my shout out, I guess.
There's your plug.
Yeah,
listen to the JJ Redick podcast.
shout out a guy who's much bigger than us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, maybe we'll do a fuck around pod, and then I'll just start posting random clips of the pod to TikTok.
Right.
We'll be back again soon. Until then, peace out.